This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. Welcome aboard. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's at the White House right now to talk about the way forward in war-torn Ukraine. He and President Trump are hosting a joint news conference later today.
We want a new partnership because our history shows that when we work together, great things happen.
Starmer's the second European leader this week to visit the White House. French President Emmanuel Macron met with Mr. Trump Monday. Ukraine's president will be there tomorrow to sign an historic mineral rights deal.
Mostly this is a deal towards reconstruction, and I'm telling you, it's a very clever and cagey move in this delicate process of trying to get peace in Ukraine.
Military analyst Rebecca Grant says the mineral rights deal in Ukraine could be worth hundreds of billions of dollars for us. One of the greatest actors of all time has passed, the iconic Gene Hackman, dead at 95.
Whatever you do, don't sell that cow.
Hackman received his first of 2 Academy Awards in 1972, playing the rough and tough detective Jimmy Popeye Doyle in The French Connection.
All right, Popeye's here. Get your hands on your heads. Get off the bar and get on the wall.
His second Oscar came in 1993 when Hackman played the sadistic sheriff Little Bill Daggett in the Clint Eastwood Western Unforgiven.
I don't deserve this. To die like this.
One of Hackman's most famous roles was as Coach Norman Dale in the 1986 classic Hoosiers.
If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential, to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game. In my book, we're going to be winners.
Hackman was found dead inside his Santa Fe home yesterday afternoon, along with his wife of more than 30 years and their dog. Police do not suspect foul play. The Texas measles outbreak has claimed the life of an unvaccinated child in Lubbock. It is the first fatal case of measles in this country in over a decade. The first childhood fatality in more than 2 decades.
We worry about measles because it's one of the most transmissible pathogens we know of.
124 measles cases have been reported in Texas alone. The outbreak began in a Mennonite community in the western part of the Lone Star State. The fiscal belt-tightening continues in Washington. President Trump signed another executive order applying even more cost-cutting measures to the federal workforce.
If we don't do this, America will go bankrupt.
Elon Musk at President Trump's first cabinet meeting yesterday. The commander-in-chief defended the efforts of his newly formed Department of Government Efficiency.
We're cutting down government. We're cutting down the size of government. We have to. We're bloated. We're sloppy. We have a lot of people that aren't doing their job. We have a lot of people that don't exist.
Last night, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Trump administration does not have to release more than $2 billion in foreign aid that it considers wasteful spending. The U.S. Supreme Court heard a reverse discrimination case yesterday. At issue, an Ohio woman who claims she was denied a promotion because she's not gay. Legal analyst Jan Crawford says lower courts dismissed this case for failure to show a pattern of discrimination.
This case is really not about the merits of her case yet. She's just trying to get in the courthouse door. And so the door was shut to her because the lower courts here found out she didn't meet that extra burden, jump through that additional hoop. If the Supreme Court rules, which I believe that they're going to, that was unnecessary and illegal and they kick out that extra hoop, then that will revive her lawsuit.
The plaintiff in this case claims she's a victim of discrimination because of her heterosexual orientation. The High Court should issue a ruling in June. The Pentagon's begun an active campaign to remove transgender service members from the military. CBS's Lori Levinson.
This is not a policy designed to accommodate such service members. This is a policy to show them the door out of military service.
The 6 branches of the military have been instructed to identify transgender soldiers, sailors, guardsmen, guardians, airmen, and Marines by March 26th and discharge those who don't get a special waiver by the end of June. The Trump administration is out with a $1 billion 5-point plan to stave off eggflation. The price of eggs have doubled the past year due to a nationwide bird flu epidemic. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins.
We are seeing probably even a little bit more increase up until Easter, which is actually normal because so many eggs are used around Easter. It's going to take a little while to get through, I think, the next month or two, but hopefully by summer.
The egg price reduction plan includes temporarily increasing egg imports to reduce prices at the grocery store. March doesn't officially start until Saturday, but March Madness is already underway in men's college basketball.
Gillespie for 3. Goal or no? Holloman looks the clock. Half court for the win.
Last night, Michigan State downed Maryland on that half-court buzzer beater by the Spartans. That win puts Michigan State in first place in the Big Ten. We'll have more sports with Randy coming up later in the broadcast. Also ahead on the Noon Report, Dee Haley will take a closer look at food insecurity. Gambling addiction is a big problem in Pennsylvania, and Brian Query tells us about how you can get free trees.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. A very changeable few days ahead weather-wise. I'll be back with a forecast details coming up in 10.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you then. Let's check the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. It's day 11 now of the corrections officer strike in New York. Prison guards across the state are protesting at dozens of facilities. They're demanding better pay, safer working conditions, and the reinstitution of solitary confinement for dangerous inmates. Former guard Brian Hammond.
The last 10 years or so, it's progressively gotten worse and worse inside the facilities. They just want safety. That's all they're fighting for. They just want to be safe when they go to work in a secure area and be able to go home and see their families. That's all they want to do.
He says there's already been this year over 200 attacks on corrections officers. Governor Hochul's activated the National Guard to staff prisons while the unsanctioned strikes continue. She is threatening legal action if the COs do not return to work. Already more than 300 have been issued cease and desist orders. Local veterans are concerned about how deep spending cuts at the federal level will impact them where they live.
There's a lot of fear and confusion going on within the VA system.
Nick Stefanovic is director of Monroe County Veteran Services.
I really have been trying to tell veterans to try to remain calm and that we don't know yet what the impact is going to be of some of these more significant changes. But my concern has grown drastically over the last couple of days.
Stefanovic says job cuts from the Bath VA Medical Center in Steuben County are critical positions at a facility that's used by veterans throughout the Finger Lakes region.
It's safe to say that these positions were not a, oops, let's reinstate them, sorry about that mistake, that these positions were cut and are not going to be replaced, at least in the near future.
The positions that were cut at the Bath VA provide substance abuse treatment and detox programs for veterans who struggle with drug and alcohol addiction. A Pennsylvania politician wants to make it a felony for adults to expose minors to drag shows. Republican Representative Robert Ledbetter says drag shows corrupt morals because of lewd performances, suggestive themes, provocative outfits, and offensive language. He believes exposing a minor to that is exploitive and results in the premature sexualization of children. Gambling addiction is on the rise in Pennsylvania. Experts say with the prevalence of online sports betting, compulsive gambling is becoming more problematic. David Yeager shared his personal struggle with gambling addiction during a news conference yesterday at the Pennsylvania State Capitol.
Resulted in a divorce, resulted in the loss of my children for 2 years, resulted in 4 attempts on my own life, because what was happening was this obsession to gamble was becoming so strong I had no idea what was happening.
A recent Wallet Hub survey finds Pennsylvania is one of the most gambling-addicted states in the country. It ranks in the top 3 for calls made to gambling help hotlines. The need for food assistance is on the rise in Western New York.
Food insecurity is increasing once again in Western New York. Residents have reportedly been waiting in lines at food pantries across the region for fresh produce, pantry staples, and meals to feed their families. Feed More Western New York reports a 16% increase in people needing food assistance so far this year, adding up to serving more than 165,000 people across 4 counties. Demand continues to grow and is reaching levels seen during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. To help meet the demand, Feed More Western New York is working on a new, larger headquarters. For now, the organization is seeking community support through donations and volunteers. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
Thank you, Dean. New York Governor Kathy Hochul is playing hardball with President Trump when it comes to congestion pricing in New York City.
More than anyone, he's got property here. He understands we want to make sure that the city keeps moving. So I was just trying to appeal to him as a New Yorker and say, this is good for New York.
President Trump says it's horrible for New York because it's a $9 tax anytime you park your vehicle in Lower Manhattan. The White House has ordered New York to stop collecting that tax by March 21st.
I'm saying I'm going to have an orderly resistance. We are not turning off the cameras.
A judge expected to make a ruling on congestion pricing in the coming weeks. This week's winter thaw allowing snowplow operators a chance to catch their breath, and hopefully it's also allowing the salt mining industry a chance to replenish dwindling supply.
We mine 12 months out of the year for a 4-month sales window. So really the other months we're just building inventory in preparation for the winter.
That's Sean Wilzinski with the Cargill salt mine in Central New York. He tells WSTM Cargill employees are hard at work mining salt underneath Cayuga Lake to meet the demand for the rest of winter.
We take our responsibility very seriously here. We know that the areas that we provide the salt to is our own communities, it's our own families, it's our residents, it's our friends. We're proud that we mine salt in New York for the residents of New York by the residents of New York.
Wilzinski says the harsh winter this year caught the salt mining industry off guard following several mild winters the past several years. First responders deal with stressful situations that most of us will never know. And now a new law in Pennsylvania is helping first responders better cope with that stress. It redefines PTSD as an injury, which will allow those who need help to get it sooner.
I would say in the last couple of years, there's been a big push for mental health awareness in the first responder community, and this is one really good step forward.
We just see the worst of the worst all the time, and really it's about time we got some good solid help in dealing with this.
Those Stroud Township volunteers tell WBRE that post-traumatic stress disorder is a daily struggle for first responders.
I started at 14 years old in the fire service, and at that age you're seeing things that most people never see. It was taboo, you didn't talk about the things you've seen, you just tried to block it out of your mind and go on with your daily life.
The law, which takes effect next fall, covers police officers, firefighters, and EMTs. It makes them eligible for workers' compensation for post-traumatic stress disorder. The deadline is Saturday, March 1st, for senior citizens in New York to apply for enhanced STAR property tax exemptions. Basic STAR recipients who turn 65 this year and meet the eligibility requirements should apply with their local town assessor. Last year, nearly 3 million homeowners received over $3 billion in property tax relief through the STAR program. Pennsylvania property owners may be able to get trees for free. Family Life's Brian Query.
A new program is being offered to get rid of invasive trees and shrubs from homeowners' properties in Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Invasive Replacive Program will let property owners replace those invasive species with native trees. Participants can get up to 5 trees for free to replace those species. Events will take place in May and are open to all Pennsylvanians. Registration for the events can be done online, and a photo that can be as early as 2020 of the cut tree or shrub can be submitted through the registration form or by bringing a photo to the event. Replacement trees will be handed out on a first-come, first-served basis. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. Sports is next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon. I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, the woes of the Philadelphia 76ers continued at the hands of the New York Knicks last night at Madison Square Garden. 110-105 was the final. For the Knicks, they snapped a modest 2-game losing streak. Jalen Brunson led the team, scoring 34 points. Mikal Bridges had 28. For Philadelphia, they have now lost 9 in a row. Tyrese Maxey led the team with 30 points, but was an abysmal 0 for 10 from three-point range. The Thunder began a 3-game road trip with a favorable outcome in Brooklyn. They beat the Nets 129-121. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander led the way with 27 points. His running mates were right there with him. Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams both scored 22 points. Holmgren also hauled down 17 rebounds. Day'Ron Sharpe led the Nets with 25 points and 15 boards. Elsewhere, Detroit took down the Celtics 117-97. The Raptors lost to Indiana 111-91. Portland outlasted the Wizards 129-121. The Heat blew out the Hawks 131-109. The Clippers got past the Bulls 122-117. Utah fell to Sacramento 118-101. And Houston, a 118-106 winner over the Kings. Just 3 games on the ice saw Winnipeg, Colorado, and Vancouver all skate to victories. And finally this, March Madness is almost here, but we got a taste of what's coming last night. In Maryland, the Terps and Michigan State were tied at 55. Maryland missed a 3-point attempt. The Spartans grabbed the rebound, and from well beyond half court, nailed a shot at the buzzer. Michigan State 58, Maryland 55. Here it comes. That is a look at sports.
All right. Can't wait to go dancing, as they say. Thank you, Randy. Still to come on the Noon Report. We're remembering the late, great Gene Hackman. Blue Ghost lands Sunday, and the Epstein files go public today.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. Well, as David Bahnsen observes in his excellent book, Full Time, most Americans work in order to stop working. According to a recent survey from Natixis Investment Managers, which looked at retirement goals by demographic, this is especially true of younger Americans. While baby boomers plan to work until age 68, Gen Xers only want to work till 60. And Gen Yers, those aged 25 to 40, want to be done with their careers before they turn 60. And when combined with other demographic realities, especially declining birth rates, well, this complicated relationship that Americans have with work is a recipe for all kinds of economic and social problems. At the root of this American work mood is a loss of meaning and purpose, expressed through a disillusionment with work. This is not the way God created us to live. In his book, Full Time, Work and the Meaning of Life, David Bahnsen describes why understanding God's design for work is so essential, both for our personal lives and our culture. In a recent interview, I asked Bahnsen about this.
To get an indication of what the culture's honest view of work is, one of the most popular expressions that people routinely use, and I think most of the time believe it is benign, is they use that expression work-life balance. So how far are we from having a proper understanding of where work fits into the meaning of our lives? We actually have pitted work against our lives, as if the two things are in need of some kind of equilibrium, balancing one another. I think work is viewed as a necessary evil. I mean, there aren't that many people that will say, you don't need to work, because most people will say you have to be able to provide for your family, make a living, make ends meet, things like that. But the underlying pretense and the mentality, and often, you know, this is in the church as well as out in the mainstream culture. The view is either implicitly or often explicitly one that work is against the things of our life that matter most. us getting to a place of peace and harmony, of time with family, of well-being and recreation, and work is kind of standing in the way of that. And so the book is really meant to be an antidote to that fallacious thinking. It is, by the way, a Marxian view of the world, that work is the enemy of mankind, that man is in a sense in a battle against nature. And I have to, as a believer, start with the creation to really get a better understanding of these things. And so when I go about saying something that can sound somewhat provocative, but is by no means said for the purpose of being provocative, but when I say that I believe work is the meaning of life, I say it because God said it. And God made us for that purpose and imbibed us with a certain dignity and a status as an image bearer of Him that reflects our ability to produce, to create, to work. As people have been removed from our created purpose, life does become meaningless.
That was David Bahnsen, author of the book Full Time: Work and the Meaning of Life. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint. And for more resources to live like a Christian today, visit us at breakpoint.org.
Thank you, John. Outside next, Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life weather forecast for this afternoon. Cloudy, breezy, scattered rain showers changing to flurries in western New York with temperatures falling from current values. Then tonight and tomorrow, it'll be much colder. Plenty of clouds, snow flurries, low tonight 20s, high tomorrow 30s. And on Saturday, it looks like a rain-snow mix early and occasional flurries and some local lake effect. It'll be a blustery day with temperatures falling ultimately into the 20s and 30s.
All right, Kevin, thank you. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price. Great to have you with us today. We're going to start with some sad news. This Thursday, the 27th of February, Hollywood legend Gene Hackman has died. The iconic actor starred in over 70 films throughout his more than half-century career. Here he is, opposite Denzel Washington in the 1995 thriller Crimson Tide.
I've made a decision. I'm captain of this boat. You're relieved of your position.
Hackman was nominated for 5 Oscars and won twice. One for his role in the 1972 classic, The French Connection.
What's my name?
Doyle.
What?
Mr. Doyle.
Come here. Get over there. Get your hands on your head.
And then again in the 1993 Western, Unforgiven.
You've been talking about the Queen again? On Independence Day?
Our coverage continues. Here's correspondent Deborah Rodriguez.
His big break would come in 1967 when he played a bank robber in the film Bonnie and Clyde.
Take a good look, Pop. I'm Buck Barrel.
Gene Hackman once said he wanted to be remembered as a decent actor, but his long list of credits and awards was the reason one interviewer called him the greatest living American actor.
Hackman's also remembered for playing basketball coach Norman Dale in the 1986 drama Hoosiers, and who can forget his role as Lex Luthor in Superman. The actor was found deceased along with his wife of more than 30 years and their dog in their Santa Fe home yesterday. Police do not suspect foul play. Gene Hackman was 95. A measles outbreak in Texas has claimed its first victim. An unvaccinated child has died from this highly contagious disease. It is the first death from measles in this country in more than a decade, the first childhood fatality in over 2 decades. Attorney General Pam Bondi says the Justice Department will release today classified files on the late accused pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. These documents being made public pertain to private flights the millionaire took to his estate in the Virgin Islands, where much of the abuse happened.
What you're going to see is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information. It's pretty sick what that man did.
Epstein died in a Manhattan jail in 2019 while awaiting sex trafficking charges. His victims number in the hundreds. Overseas, the terror group Hamas today releasing the bodies of 4 more Israeli hostages. Linda Gradstein has the latest from Jerusalem.
Hamas gave the bodies to the Red Cross, which transferred them to Israel. Israeli officials said 2 of them were killed while in Hamas captivity. Israel has begun releasing releasing 620 Palestinian prisoners, including 71 who were sentenced to life imprisonment. Almost 100 of them will be deported outside the Palestinian territories.
That's Linda Gradstein in the Middle East today. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is at the White House today. He and President Trump will be hosting a joint news conference around 2 o'clock this afternoon. Starmer says peace in Ukraine can only happen if Kyiv has a seat at the bargaining table. The president of Ukraine will be at the White House tomorrow. You're listening to the Noon Report, a Thursday edition on Family Life.
This is Faith Under Fire on Family Life, and I'm Greg Gillespie. Today we visit with Brian Westbrook, who is the Executive Director of Coalition Life, a pro-life organization that took a case to the Supreme Court, but this week the court declined to hear your case. Brian, tell us where this all started.
Absolutely. Well, here at Coalition Life, we're based out of the St. Louis area, but we're invited to Carbondale, Illinois. It's a short 2-hour drive. Carbondale has become the hotbed of abortion in the Midwest. Clients are coming to Carbondale from all around the United States, from Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Louisiana, and beyond, to the 3 abortion facilities there in Carbondale. And we started sidewalk counseling, and the moment we did that, the city of Carbondale enacted a bubble zone. We told them that we would bring this to the Supreme Court if need be, and that's just exactly what we did. We're excited that they eventually repealed this a day or two before the Supreme Court actually was about to hear this at conference.
What were they accomplishing by putting these bubble zones in?
Yeah, it was a copycat of Hill versus Colorado. That was a case from more than 20 years ago that specifically does not allow you to approach someone to hold a sign about alternatives to abortion. Because of the way it's worded, it's a huge violation of our First Amendment free speech. But in Carbondale, they did decide to repeal it in a 4-minute meeting in the basement of City Hall. Unannounced, they repealed the bubble zone, and so we're glad that they did that. However, we are disappointed that the Supreme Court did not take the case.
Brian Westbrook is the founder of Coalition Life. So what was it that pushed this decision by the local leaders there to change their mind?
The actual ordinance was passed at the request of the abortion facilities. They did not come publicly to speak. Not one citizen came to speak on behalf of the passage of this bubble zone. In fact, there was an overwhelming majority of people that came to speak against this bubble zone. Yet the city council overwhelmingly passed it unanimously when they repealed it. The reason was because, well, we don't need it. And that was kind of our reason several years back, is you don't need this because there's nothing dangerous happening. None of the clients are getting upset. In fact, they are grateful that they have this new piece of information that there are alternatives to abortion. And the vast majority of the clients we meet are very grateful that they have this information. In fact, many of them turn around, leave, and choose life in front of those abortion facilities because of our Coalition Life sidewalk counselors.
What lessons would you have for pro-life advocates in other parts of the country about that kind of a turnout when a city council wanted to restrict people from approaching those who might be going into one of these clinics?
When there are egregious ordinances or egregious decisions, whether that be from city council or state or even schools, universities, especially public universities, that you don't just sit by idly by and allow those things to happen. Have yourself an attorney or two in your back pocket, get to know them, because we have these types of ordinances all around the country. These are egregious ordinances that should be challenged, that are a huge violation of First Amendment free speech, whether it be so-called free speech zones on college campuses or these bubble zones in front of abortion facilities. Huge lessons learned through this.
Does that tell us anything about where the pro-choice, pro-life debates are going to go on the legal side?
The most important piece of information is Justice Thomas's dissenting opinion that Hill versus Colorado is terrible. Yet the court has to officially say that. We will continue to take one case after the next, until Hill versus Colorado is in the trash heap of history.
That's Brian Westbrook of Coalition Life, which sued the city of Carbondale, Illinois, over a 100-foot buffer zone around abortion clinics. You can listen to Greg's entire interview on our latest Faith Under Fire podcast. It's available at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. The disturbance that brought some rain last night and this morning, even an icy mix for some, is departing now. But fast on its heels, another system is on the way to deliver some mixed precipitation again come Friday night into Saturday morning. It will be followed by a chunk of some pretty chilly air and a bit of lake effect. For this afternoon, cloudy, breezy, scattered rain showers changing to flurries in western New York with temperatures falling from current values. Then tonight and tomorrow, it'll be much colder, plenty of clouds, snow flurries, low tonight 20s, high tomorrow 30s. And on Saturday, looks like a rain-snow mix early and occasional flurries and some local lake effect. It'll be a blustery day with temperatures falling ultimately into the 20s and 30s.
All right, so much for our winter thaw. Thank you, Kevin. Finally at noon.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me
a lunar lander will be touching down on the surface of the moon this Sunday. How about that? The Blue Ghost lander is carrying some scientific equipment and other gadgets. It's the first object in 6 years to land on the moon. China sent a rover there in 2019. This rover is due to arrive at 3:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on March the 2nd. Blue Ghost is part of the Artemis mission, which will lay the groundwork for sending astronauts eventually to Mars. That's the plan, anyway. A Blue Ghost launched more than a month ago, January 15th, aboard a SpaceX rocket from the Kennedy Space Center. Touchdown on Sunday, hopefully. And that's our world, the world we live in, Thursday, February 27th. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.